right, my friends, so this is just going to be a nice little reminder that your teachers make mistakes too. So I was going through our notes rather quickly yesterday, and I made 2 mistakes. So I wanted to make sure that we kind of correct those and make sure that we all have the right answer for the last 2 problems that we did. So the first one was when we were doing tangent, we got our tangent by itself, and we got -1 on the right-hand side. And then when we were looking at where does tangent equal -1, we got 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. And I think I added 2 in pi as our period there. And that was my mistake, because remember that tangent actually has just in pi as our period. And so because 3 pi over 4 is the first spot that tangent is -1, that would be our answer. But remember that technically it also occurs at 7 pi over 4 in our 4th quadrant, but because our period is only in pi, we don't have to write that second answer. Now from there, our steps would be the same that I did. We're going to multiply by 2 to both sides. So I get x equals, I'll have 3 pi over 2 by distributing that, but then I'll end up with a 2 in pi instead of the 4 in pi that I wrote down. So make sure that we have that one corrected. Now let's look at our last one. All right, so the mistake I made here, all right, so remember that we were looking for where does cosine equal 1/2, and we got pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3, which is correct. The mistake I made was then when I multiplied by 1/3, I put pi over 6 instead of pi over 9. So 3 times 3 is 9, not 6. So we want to make sure that we make that correction. And the same is going to be true with our bottom one. And like I mentioned before, usually the place where people, including myself, make mistakes is in your algebra stuff, like multiplying, and not in the trig stuff. So just be careful. One of my students caught the mistake and pointed it out, which I'm very grateful for. So that's why I kind of wanted to go back and make sure that we're all on the same page. So then remember from here, because our answer we want to get between 0 to 2 pi, we need to basically evaluate plugging in the different options that I have. So my first option to plug in for n would be 0, and that would just give me the pi over 9 and the 5 pi over 9. The second option that remember that we would have would be if I plugged in 1. So we would have pi over 9 plus 2 pi over 3. We need to find a common denominator. So we multiply our second fraction by 3 over 3. So we get 6 pi over 9, which gives us 7 pi over 9. We also need to do that with our second answer. Again, finding a common denominator. And we get 11 pi over 9. Okay, and then what's going to change a little bit now is that I should, when we plug in 2 now and we get 4 pi over 3, we're actually going to get more answers than we ended up with yesterday, because things ended up reducing when it was a 6, and they're not going to when it's a 9. So we want to do the same thing. We need to find a common denominator, which would give us 9 again. And so we're going to multiply our second fraction by 3 over 3. So we're going to get 12 pi over 9, which gives us 13 pi over 9. Add that to my list. Then we also need to do it with our 5 pi over 9. Again, multiplying by plugging in 2. And we get 17 pi over 9. And notice that 17 pi over 9 is still smaller than 2 pi because 17 divided by 9 is going to be slightly smaller than 2. And so because we are almost at 2 pi, that should be our last answer, which makes sense because then recall that I said then when we plug in 3 for n, we would do 2 times 3, which gives us 6, and 6 pi over 3 is 2 pi. So if we add the pi over 9 or the 5 pi over 9 to 2 pi, that's going to be outside of the range that they're wanting our answers in. So we should actually end up with 6 solutions. So again, just a nice reminder why it's so important to be careful with your algebra and to go back and check yourself for mistakes. So just make sure that you correct both of these in your notes and make sure that you are more careful than I was when you are completing your homework.